Hello and welcome to The Actor and the Engineer. My name is Paul James. I am the actor.
And my name is Josh Knapp. I'm the broadcast engineer.
All right, here we go, Josh.
I just want to, out of the gate, I just want to celebrate original filmmaking, with a big budget. That is my first and foremost, it's not my most exciting thing about this movie. We're talking about Nope today. But I think that it is definitely something that we need to, at least understand that it doesn't happen very often anymore. Something that's not tied to some sort of intellectual property, be it Marvel or some sort of Disney property, or just a sequel of a sequel of a sequel, or a prequel, or these types of things, or a video game, something. There are other movies out there. I mean, Bullet Train just came out, and I think that might be the graphic novel based or something. But I mean, it's not something that is completely previously established IP. And this is a unique and interesting story that definitely calls upon different genres, different storytelling tropes, different filmmaking tropes, and moves its way between genres like all of the other Jordan Peele movies do. But it's first and foremost an original story. So I love that.
Is it though?
Okay.
No, let me wait. Stop. Nope. I loved this movie. Loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I've seen it twice. And the first time that I saw it, I was in the theater by myself, and there was about 3 other people, and it lit me up. Then the second time I saw it with my 13-year-old and 14-year-old nephew and my buddy Chad. And it was pretty packed. It was a Friday night. And the audience participation part, I miss. Because everybody jumps, everybody, no, don't go in there. Wait, nope. Everybody does it. So I had a great time in this movie. And I don't mean to sound like I'm criticizing, but it's not that original of a movie. It's Jaws.
Oh, no. That's what I mean. It definitely is leaning hard on different storytelling pieces, and you can grab from multiple things and you can shove them together. It's like you get the red Play-Doh and you get the blue Play-Doh and you get the green Play-Doh, and you shove it all together and you make something that's kind of a mixture of all of them, but you still see each of the different colors. I get that, and it's not its own color of Play-Doh. It's an amalgamation of all of these different colors of Play-Doh. But at the same time, it is not something where Jordan Peele went to a financier and said, hey, to Universal, I guess, and said, hey, I'm going to be making this young adult novel into a movie, and I want to cast the most popular TikTok star in it. It's a movie that he wrote with these actors, with the lead actors in mind, Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer in mind. And it's not something that is just a rubber stamped, we're going to make this movie anyway type of a thing. It is a Jordan Peele movie. And much like Quentin Tarantino and Christopher Nolan to a certain extent, Paul Thomas Anderson even to a certain extent, but especially as far as big blockbuster movies, there are movies that people go to because fill in the blank here made it. And I think Jordan Peele has definitely gotten to that level. I wanted to go see this movie knowing nothing about it because Jordan Peele made it, period. So I think that's rarefied air, and that's a really good place to be in, because you have a lot of flexibility as an artist and as a filmmaker, because you're not going to be beholden to, I got to make Star Wars episode 25 and make it happen that way and get your name that way. And his budgets have just gone up and up and up. And this was a $68 million movie. And that's not even counting the advertising and all that stuff. But he started out with Get Out, it was $4.5 million. Then he got $20 million for Us. And this movie is $68 million. And it's only been out for a couple weeks. And total, all 3 of his movies have made over $500 million in the movie theater. I mean, that is huge. So he's definitely a good bet for movie studios to release his films. And so I just hope he keeps going. And I hope he has more original, quote unquote, maybe not as original ideas that he can get out to, no pun intended, to to audiences. So yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it also. Yeah.
I think it's wholly original. You're exactly right. It's not a remake of a remake. It's not a prequel. It's not a revisit or re-envision. What?
Reimagining.
Reimagining. That's the term they use. What? So yes, I agree with you. And I was extremely excited to see this film. I didn't know anything about it. Not really. I mean, you kind of pick up on some things. You think it's about aliens, but you're not sure. And what is it about? And then the film starts in a place you're not expecting it to start at.
Yeah.
A little bit of history, and a little bit of history that's gone lost. And you know how I feel about that. That always pisses me off when I find out something about our history that's never been taught. I'm like, and I say the same exact thing every time. Let me know the information, and then let me choose to make it a big deal or not a big deal, or let me ignore it because I have some kind of issues inside my own head. But tell me the information. It pisses me off when I find out stuff like the way that this film began. But because of this film, I now kind of researched some stuff and found out other stuff about that film that they're talking about in the first.
So the Edvard Muybridge video or series of photos that was moving pictures.
Right. Who would have thunk it? And so when it starts that way, you're going, wait, what's happening here? Where is the tension? What is the problem? What is the issue? And the issue begins with a coin or a key or a noise. And then all of a sudden it just takes off. And you're like, what? Because you're kind of fooled into believing this movie might be something else at first. Like if I had no idea at all what this movie was about, I would have assumed it was going to be about animals in the movies or horse wranglers in the movies or the history of this particular family, whether or not it was a real family or not, or the history of that original photographs that are put together that's made into the film. And then you see Keith David out in the corral. And his son, who you don't really know is his son at the time, doesn't really matter whether or not you do or not. It's just kindly looks at him and then starts to walk away. And there's this, and you're like, wait, you register it. And the second time I saw the film, I was listening for it because the first time I heard it, but I didn't know, of course you don't know what it is. You can't comprehend what it is. And then all of a sudden he just kind of slumps over on the horse. Keith David does. And you're like, wait. And then you see the key, and then you see other things, and then you hear the noise of the screaming, or is it screaming? And right then and there, he has me. I need to know exactly what's happening. I will not stop focusing on this until the very end of this movie because I need to know what just happened. And the way that it's handled, and that shot in the car when David Kaluuya is coming back from the hospital, and you see the bag with the coin in it.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, how simple the visuals are in that whole sequence. It's very simple in a way. You see the x-ray, you see the coin, you're never really putting it all together, and then you do. And you're like, whoa.
That's the editing, and I think the editing has been, well, not the editing, I think the pace of this movie has been maligned, and people say like, wow, it takes like 40 minutes to get going. But I think that, you know, I don't ever complain about a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, how it takes 40 minutes to get going, or maybe it never gets going. Because the quote unquote get going is not really what I'm there for. You know, I'm there for the images. I'm there for the subject matter and the concise storytelling. And I say concise by meaning that each shot is composed. And you've got Jordan Peele as the writer-director. You've got Hoyte van Hoytema in this film as the cinematographer, shooting on IMAX cameras. I wish I would have seen it in IMAX, but I couldn't do it. But still, there are a lot of epic shots that may not be of even necessarily epic subject matter, but they have this, for lack of a better word, epicness. There's got to be a word for epicness, but I think that there are ways to frame shots, and there are ways to compose shots and how you interconnect them, that I think this movie has a lot of. It's very tight, and it's hard to say that a movie is tight as far as the editing is concerned, and then also not focus on the pace. I think I didn't get the feeling of a slow pace of the movie, but I know a lot of people have kind of been like, "Man, when are we gonna get to the alien?" And I think that this movie is because of, we're not going to get into spoilers right now, but I think because of what happens later on in the movie, what you find out about, specifically about the alien, is that it's exciting, it's new, it is something that really changes the film. Like at that exact moment, it is an aha moment, and it is the thing that the whole film hinges on. And I think once you see that, I think that it helps you to understand maybe that the thing that you thought you wanted is not the thing that you got, and it turns out to be the thing that you didn't know you didn't need. So yeah, you can just move past all of the things that you thought you were going to get in this movie, and you're going to get something totally different. So being very vague, but I think that it definitely served, at least it served me well as an audience member. And I was going to try to see it again because I only saw it once, but I couldn't make it happen.
So I texted you after I saw it the first time and said, Jordan Peele is 3 for 3. And you said, don't say anything else.
Yep.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything out of this movie. And I was going to this movie because it was a Jordan Peele movie, and because I knew that he was going to show me something that I haven't seen before, and that he was going to expose me to things that I haven't thought before. And that's what I got out of the movie. So as far as like 3 for 3 or, not 3 for 3, yeah, he's 3 for 3 because he fulfilled all of my expectations, even though I did not have an expectation of seeing an alien. I did not have an expectation of an alien being a particular thing. I did not have an expectation of the good guys winning or the good guys losing, or an expectation of there being particular allegorical connections. Like I didn't have any of that. So I didn't feel let down at all throughout the movie and even after the movie. When I initially left the movie, I wasn't as elated about the movie as I am right now. And I think that bodes well for a movie because there was so much that came across my transom throughout this film. I saw so much. And then there was stuff I didn't even realize that I saw until I thought about it later. There was stuff that I didn't realize was connected until I thought about it later. And there's a lot in there. If a movie is so simple that you leave it and The Gray Man, perfect example. That movie is a simple movie. That movie did what people wanted it to do. But ultimately, that movie is a hugely flawed movie. It's fine. It can hold its own space in pop culture and in the 2022 movie-going population. But ultimately, that movie is a movie that I haven't thought about except for the time that Steph and I spent talking about like issues that we had, huge issues that we had with the plot and just how it left us feeling empty. And Steph doesn't usually bring those things up when we talk about movies. She's like, yeah, I liked it. But then we were both kind of like, what about this part? Or like, why would they do that? Or, why was I feeling this? It's like, yeah, that's not good. She just wanted to have a fun Friday night. And it turns out that like we had a discussion about film. It's like, that's not what she's necessarily looking for in a movie. But yeah, it was, So this movie is kind of the opposite, where it definitely grows on you as you think about it. And so we didn't really talk about what it's about, but it's mainly about a family of film horse trainers, and it's a multi-generational family business. Like you said, they lose their dad, and then the son, Daniel Kaluuya, is trying to keep the business on the rails. He ends up having to sell horses to another character who we haven't talked about yet, Jupe, who is played by Steven Yeun, who we saw in Minari, and he was in Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone. Actually, he was in an episode. So yeah, I mean, so Jordan Peele's actually worked with, I think, most of the actors in this movie, most of the main actors in this movie before. But so I think that that character does play an integral part in the film also, but not as big of a part as Daniel Kaluuya, the son, and Keke Palmer, the daughter. So, we need to talk about the beginning, the very beginning scene. Do you remember the very beginning scene was not the
you're right.
Keith David? it was a voiceover. It was like nothing on the screen, just the titles, and then you hear this 1990s sitcom and what turns out to be something that it's a sitcom with a chimpanzee as one of the main actors, and then something spooks the chimpanzee, and then it just lays terror on the people on the set. And so we get to see that at the just a quick shot at the very beginning of the film of that, with the chimpanzee with blood in its face and attacking a woman, and then the shoe that was sitting straight up. And Jordan Peele's really good at these like images where you're just like, this tells you that whatever is about to happen in this movie is not normal and is not something that would happen in quote unquote real life. So I think that's kind of like it's a get out of jail free card. It's like, hey, this is made up, and this is something that you're just gonna have to come along for the ride with me, because it's not something that is truly realistic, but it may still have something to do with us as humans. For me, it seemed like it was meant to bolster the one of the big themes of the movie, which is how we're so attuned, how we're so needy for spectacle. Just having people on a sitcom is not good enough. We have to have a chimpanzee on a sitcom. That's like whether the chimpanzee wanted to be there or not, or whether the horses want to be there or not, or whatever. I don't really know. I'm trying to figure out, like, because when you listen to Jordan Peele talk about the movie, like, there's certain things that he does not talk about when he talks about this movie, and there's certain things that he does talk about. And he talks a lot about humans being drawn to spectacle. And I think it's very easy to make that case, especially nowadays, where you can't just have a story. It's got to be the biggest story. It's got to be the most epic, the most epic news story, or the most salacious news story. I mean, things that are very, things that are normal, or things that are not normal. That's a bad word, but things that don't have huge stakes or huge repercussions don't really gain traction in today's society, because everyone is fighting for your attention.
And that's exactly why everybody thinks the first 40 minutes of this film are slow. That's exactly why. That's exactly why.
Because they'd rather look at their phone.
Well, no, not well, maybe, but everything happens in 2 minutes now. Everything happens in 2 minutes from the point. And I find myself sometimes getting bored if it goes past 2 minutes, if I'm waiting for a ghost story, or look at this video of this ghost walking across the street and it takes 3 minutes. I'm out. I'm done. I'm on to the next video. So that's probably why. And people don't have, and we've talked about this before, and I'm generalizing, and I'm saying from my perception in my world of how I look at the world, I have noticed that people, they don't want to, we talked about this just recently too, they don't want to adjust their senses to the film. They want the film to adjust to their needs. I've talked about going into seeing a play. It could be the best actors in the world, the best play in the world, and the first 10 or 15 minutes are a little wonky because I'm taking that time to adjust to the sensibility of the play and the environment and everything that I'm in, everything I'm watching. And once it clicks, it clicks. But that's the audience's responsibility to say, hey, I give myself over to whatever the narrative's going to be at whatever pace the director chooses to tell the story. And if it pays off, and if it is told as well as something like this, then you have to give yourself over to it, because the director is not doing it because he's unsure of the pacing or the tone of his film. There's nothing wrong with the tone in this film at all. Even when it gets a little comical in spaces, and even when it gets a little trying to set up a joke here and there, the Fry's Electronics employee is kind of, I think, supposed to be a little bit of, I mean, his whole character, and the daughter,
and the daughter, Keke Palmer also, but I think she's just like a breath of fresh air, Yes,
but, she is.
Angel Torres is the Fry's Electronics employee, and it's played by Brandon Perea.
But he's a
yeah.
perfect example of, yes, we have to interject some MCU Iron Man humor into every film now, but with purpose. Jordan Peele does it with purpose. I heard some things about character development. He sacrifices character development in this film. And I'm like, no, he does not. You learn enough about Angel that you need to know. That's all you need to know. He is on a breakup. He's just come off a breakup.
He's oversharing. That's the other thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's perfect for that type of a character in this moment in time. Like, yeah.
The person who will cross that line into being a voyeuristic person because he thinks he's helping out people he just attached the cameras to or to their house to. So no one does that. No one goes and looks at other people's cameras. Well, no one should go and do that. No one should go in. And it's covered in a couple of lines, and it is funny. But the point to all of that is that people are waiting for the explosion or waiting for the universe to blow up or the end of the world or Endgame or whatever it is, which I just rewatched again, by the way, halfway through though. But if they give themselves over to what this filmmaker's trying to say and trying to do, you learn something not only about yourself, you learn something about the story and how you're perceiving the world. And as for Gordy's story, I think has multiple layers of why that's in this film. Obviously, for the sensation of, you're right. No, we can't just have a sitcom. We have to have a sitcom with a chimpanzee that acts like a human being. And we need to up the stakes every time. And now we have HD, and now we're going to have Ultra HD, and now we're going to have all this stuff, and we have to keep upping the ante and all that other stuff. Yes, it's about the culture, in particular, the world, but in particular America, where we just suck everything dry because of the sensationalism of it, and then we scream about its pacing is too slow and there's not enough substance. You're like, wait. You can't have everything. But I also think that has a lot to do with the Jupe character and what he goes through and why he chooses to do the things that he chooses to do. And I did not see that the first time I saw the film. I put it together the second time I saw the film. I didn't question why Jordan Peele put it in there because it made sense and it was a great backstory. But then I was questioning why Jupe would do the things that he did as an adult. But, when you're traumatized as a child, forget about it. All bets are off. So I think he makes choices later on because of what happened at that television show.
So I think let's start getting into spoilers, because I think it's much more easy to talk about the film without having to worry about like spoiling specific things of the film. But so spoilers from now on. But I think that you're right. The Jupe character. So what did you see the second time that unlocked it for you? So the first time, let me see if I can get this right, because I can see maybe like the first time being like the Jupe character is just a bad guy. Like he's just trying to take advantage of, he's trying to figure out the best way to separate people from their money. And he's cashing in on something that he did when he was younger. And this is the best way for him to be able to do that. No holds barred, no scruples. If somebody wants to pay $50,000 to sleep in a closet where he has old trinkets, then good on them. That's fine. But what did you see the second time you watched the film that made you maybe change your mind on that?
Side note, I would be one of those people who would pay $50,000 if I had that kind of money.
If you had.
If I had that kind of money, if like $50,000 like $50 to you and I, yes, I would have all the Kiss costumes that were ever designed. I would have them on mannequins.
Oh, you would,
yes.
You would collect them. Oh, okay.
No,
I see what you're saying.
I would have them made. So,
okay.
And there would be different Kiss rooms in my mansion. Trust me, I have it all designed. So yes, I would spend $50,000 to sleep in that room. There's a connotation behind the couple and what they might be doing in that room. I would do that too. That said, I think it's about a little boy being traumatized and not having any control. And so he has convinced himself as an adult, because his business is not unsuccessful. It's successful. The town and country circus thing that he set up seems to be successful. It doesn't seem to be a business that's been around and floundering. Although when you do see that group of people who have gathered for the big show, it does look Like he
Looks
does
a
have
bit
some trouble.
sparse.
It does, which I think is twofold. I think it's because of what ends up happening to them. If it was more people, it might turn us off a little bit. It might be a little disturbing that he got that amount of people if those seats were all filled. But then again, it would also be traumatizing. So, because it does become traumatizing. I think he's trying to control the beast. I think he's trying to control the monkey. I think he's trying to control the chimpanzee, and he couldn't do it as a kid. And as an adult, he thinks that the alien is just going to come and get the horse, and it's going to be a show. But he has not figured out, and he doesn't have the chance to figure out that be careful what you wish for, because if the alien is going to do what they do, or it does, then why wouldn't it suck up everything in its sight?
Well, yeah, I think it's just a complete parallel of the Gordy show. It's we've got this under control type of a thing. And he didn't realize what danger he was being put in when he was a child. That was my when I felt it, I was like, oh my gosh, like he didn't know how close he was to death. Every day he was fist bumping this chimpanzee. And neither did all of the other people that were his co-stars who got their faces eaten off. So that was like, he was put in undue harm. Like he was put in harm's way for a dollar. And these people in their, the corral, in their audience didn't realize what danger they were being put in, because they assumed that the person who was the proprietor of this Jupe's Landing had their safety in mind and had their best interests in mind, but he didn't. He just wanted to make as much money as possible, and so I think that was the parallel that I saw between those two there, and the way that he is able to, like, that's the other thing, is that he survived that whole ordeal with Gordy. But the reason why that they were able to neutralize, quote unquote, the way that they were able to actually get a good shot on Gordy and actually, kill him, is because Gordy had developed a relationship with the kid, with Jupe, and calmed down to the point where he wasn't running all over the place. And so people were able to, he was being distracted by Jupe, and then he was able to be neutralized. He was able to be killed, so that he couldn't hurt anybody else. And I think that is exactly paralleled at the end of the movie when Otis Jr. is being that, bait, with his Scorpion King sweatshirt, and his hoodie flipped up with the fake eyes in the back of it, the little reflective, markers on the back of it. And when he's running away, that was what I was like feeling. It was like, he's now the thing that's distracting the alien, and there were definite parallels there between those two. But I think that as far as the Jupe character is concerned, he probably felt like there was only one path forward, was to profit. Was the only way for him to make money, which is kind of sad.
Well, you said that it's parallel to the ending, but actually it's a little different, because they learned their lesson before it was too late. Because what Keke and OJ and what's the sister's name? Emerald. What they want to do is make money and get the money shot for Oprah. And that whole funny thing about Oprah is hilarious. You got to think about Oprah.
It's the Oprah shot.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Because everybody has that on some level about Oprah. And, being on Oprah solidifies that you're a real human being, or, this belief you have if you go on Oprah. Anyway, which is probably more true than not. But that said,
didn't work for Tom Cruise.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But that whole
it's not Oprah's fault.
That whole world of Tom Cruise was woo. Anyway, we just have a physicalization of what his mind was going through at the time. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so they learned that this has to be destroyed. This has to be taken care of. This has to be, she does. because up to what she does at the end of the film, they're still trying to get the shot. They're still trying to figure out how to cash in on it. But in the end, she realizes that that's, we've got to take this thing out because it's going to destroy everything.
Well, I think he does. I think OJ does too. But I think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the shot and then get that thing out of here or kill it or whatever. But they're trying to extract what they can and then move on. Whereas Jupe is trying to control and contain. And he's analyzing like, okay, so if I let a horse out, he shows up, the alien shows up. If I, so what are he's trying to like plan these, he's not working with a full set of data, but he's trying to be like, okay, so if I let out a horse, this will happen. If I let out a horse, a week later, this same thing kind of maybe happens, but it's a totally, he's looking at it in a different way. I mean, he's trying to make a cash register, whereas the OJ and Emerald are trying to just like grab some cash. So I think it's a different mentality, but yeah, it's I don't know.
But if Jupe had seen the stuff that OJ had seen up to this point, would he be doing the same thing?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, probably. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that there's always going to be that, like, anybody who has the gumption to start a business, you have to like really believe in yourself, like, wholeheartedly, and be like, no, we can figure this out. And you figure out some way to like contain this beast, that wants to just it seems like the alien like just gets hungry every once in a while. Because the times when he sucked up all those people, like that did not go well. The alien like essentially like went to a golden corral and decided to eat every single dish on the line, and it didn't go well. And that's where we get the iconic scene where he's essentially puking up body parts and blood all over their Emerald and OJ's house, which is disturbing but also very evocative. Especially when you see it during the daytime, you're just kind of like, ooh.
I love everything about
bad
that.
happened here.
I love everything about how that whole production design is done. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's disgusting, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about the actual reveal or the discovery that this alien is actually a singular being, a living organic being, as opposed to it being a spaceship. And I mean, it's so kind of like elegant, and it's just like right there. It's right there. And nobody's really, has anybody done that? I mean, you kind of get, I don't know, it has like some M. Night Shyamalan vibes maybe, but
sure.
And there's probably some sort of like, Twilight Zone from the 60s that references something like that, where something that you may think is a robot is an actual, organic being, or something you might, because we don't even know if this thing is from another planet. Like it doesn't have to be from another planet. It could just be from the inside of a volcano. I don't know. Like it could be anything. And that's the other great thing about it, is that we know a very small amount about it. We know it is organic. We know it likes to eat organic things, horses, humans, whatever it can get, and it spits out all the rest. We know that it is attracted to eyes, that it is able to like lock in on eyes and focus in on that, which is a whole nother parallel allegory, dig into this, why don't you type of a thing. It's like, if a television is on, then it doesn't really matter unless somebody's watching it. That's the whole point. A television being on doesn't do anything, but a television being on and somebody watching it, and there being ratings generated because of that, and measurements because of somebody watching it, then in turn gets advertisements to be sold on that television or on that show or whatever. And then it's that big cycle, but it needs an audience. This being needs an audience. It needs people to be looking at it. So, or else it's not going to live. It doesn't know that you're there unless you look at it. and in the cinematographer character, Antlers, what is it? Antlers Hayden or something? His name is funky, but his name is Michael Winscott, who plays Antlers Holst. So Holst wrote The Planets, the composer who wrote The Planets, and Antlers, I don't know. But Michael Winscott, when I saw him, I was like, that's the dude from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. And he's like one of the bad guys in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. It's weird. I mean, he's been in a lot of other stuff, and I'm sure you've recognized him for other things.
Isn't he the villain in The Crow?
I haven't seen The Crow.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well done, actually.
Yeah, but he's, gravelly voiced dude. But, with the cinematographer and even the Fry's guy, really, the Fry's Electronics guy, really, and especially with the TMZ character, they all can't look away. Like, they can't do it. And it takes somebody like Otis Jr. who understands this being like a thing that, like a horse, like something that he has experience with other beings, and being sympathetic to those other beings and understanding what they like, what they don't like, what they want, what they don't want. And it seems like he's much more in tune with this flying saucer squid being thing. And that allows them to survive and allows them to ultimately defeat it. So yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting, the parallels there.
Well, one of the things I was going to mention at the beginning, one of the first things that I wrote down was that everything comes back. And Jordan Peele seems to be a master of that. Things come back. The shoe comes back. The coin comes back. There's a motivating scene where OJ is looking at the coin, which is now on the wall. All those things come back. The photo booth or well comes back. Mm-hmm. The big blow up balloon.
It's Jupe.
Yeah, Jupe. Yeah, I didn't realize the first time I saw it that was Jupe, but then I put it together. Which is there's irony behind that too, because what ultimately brought the alien here is ultimately what destroyed the alien in the long run. Mm-hmm. So
the reason why the alien was attracted to that particular balloon is because that balloon is has eyes. And then the other thing is that we've got a balloon at the very beginning of the movie that bursts and sets off Gordy. And we've got a balloon at the very end of the movie that kills the alien.
Oh, see, that's
so cool.
Man. That's cool. But the thing you were saying about the eyes, of course, the theory is that the eyes are the windows to the soul. And which I would believe more so than not. You can look inside somebody and you can look into their eyes and you could see something that they don't have to verbally tell you at all. So what I was grappling with the whole looking at thing was that why would a being or an animal, an organic alien spacecraft, people eater, giant purple people eater, why would it need to have its food look at it? Is that like a thing in nature? Is that something that exists? Are there animals that won't eat unless their meal looks at them? Where does that come from?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't think so. First of all, it's wholly for the story itself.
Absolutely.
and for the different parallels you can draw between that and spectacle and
it's kryptonite.
Yeah,
it's kryptonite. But at the same time, safe.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's I think that there are definitely predators that their prey have found ways to adapt to be able to blend in, whether it's camouflage, whether it's like a chameleon changing the color of its skin, or whether it's a bug looking like a stick, developing over time to look exactly like a stick and not moving. I mean, that happens all the time where, predator and prey, the prey is able to stay still and then the predator, loses track of the prey because their eyesight's not great as far as, differentiating something from the foreground or the background, but they are great with recognizing movement. I mean, it'd be a similar thing, I would think, where if you're able to, either move slowly, number one, or number two, stay perfectly still in certain scenarios, then you'll be able to evade your predator. There's gonna be, I mean, just the balance of nature is going. You can't have a some sort of apex predator. I mean, I guess you could potentially say that humans are as close as you can get to an apex predator, but at the same time, like sharks can still eat you, or bears can still maul you. I think that there's certain situations in which that might break down, but you can't necessarily have a predator that doesn't have any weaknesses, because there's not going to be, if you do have that, then they'll wipe out all of their prey, and then not only will the prey go extinct, so will the predator. So there has to be some sort of a balance.
I understand the need for it, and I understand the reason for it. I just didn't know if that was based on some kind of...
Oh, I don't know.
It's just curious. I totally understand why it's there. I get it. 100%. I just was wondering, hey, is that influenced by something else? Because Jordan Peele is so layered. I think you were talking about Us when we talked about Us, how it was an onion and you just peel back the layers one at a time. I think it was Us. It might even been Get Out. I'm not sure. But I did just recently see Us again, like 3 days after I saw this the second time. And I was having, people were saying that all the things, the pacing, the narrative was simple, blah, 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 blah. I like that. I like that the narrative was simple. And somebody had said, it's Jaws. And I was like, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. But why not? Because look how great Jaws is. And second, that's not Jaws. Jaws didn't invent that narrative. Spielberg just told it very well. That narrative has been around, where there's a monster, you got to go get the monster, and blah, and that's worked against some stories like Frankenstein and different stories like that. But when I was watching Us, the little boy, when they go to the beach for the first time, is wearing a Jaws t-shirt. And I thought, okay, well, I don't know if that's purposeful, and I don't know if that's like Jordan Peele messing with us and letting us know what's coming or where his mind's at. But I thought it was pretty ironic that most people were saying, or not ironic, but interesting that most people were saying that the plot is no different than Jaws. And then I watch it and he's wearing a Jaws t-shirt, and I thought, okay, that's cool.
See, the crazy part about that is that I think that what they're saying, if you said that exact thing to Jordan Peele, he would probably be like, "Oh, you mean I made a movie that is on par with Steven Spielberg's movies?"
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, I'll take it. Thanks for the compliment.
Right.
I mean, if you're being compared to Steven Spielberg, you're in pretty good company.
Yep.
So I don't really get that. And he's even said in interviews, and you can tell he loves Steven Spielberg. And Steven Spielberg is another one of those directors that gets movies made that he wants to get made. Like, he doesn't make a movie that he doesn't want to make. And when he does, he'll make a movie like West Side Story that he's been trying to make for God knows how long. And he'll get it done, and he'll get it done to his level of quality. And the other thing is that I feel like it's not just Jaws. Like, this movie, once you start getting into the last, I don't know, 20% of the movie, like I was getting serious Indiana Jones vibes, like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, like on the horse. The score by Michael Abels, who scored his Jordan Peele's previous two films, it just gets out and does its own thing at that point. And it was it could have been an Indiana Jones score right at that point. Like, you got Otis Jr. riding on the horse, and you've got this thing with dust all flying behind him, coming after him. And like, it felt like the score adapted to what it needed to adapt to based on what was going on in the film. But I think that I was not expecting that type of a piece of music at that moment. For whatever reason, I was just like, oh, well, this is Michael Abels. This is the guy who did, like, the Get Out score, this like haunting, brooding score. And of course he has the ability to make essentially a Western theme for the end of the film that is, we're watching our hero vanquish the villain. And I thought that was really cool. And it'd be interesting to see if he gets an Oscar nod for that score, because it's not all over the place, but it is what it needs to be in the moment that it needs to be there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I noticed it a second time and I thought, oh, Josh is going to love it because I actually noticed it. A lot of times I don't, a lot of times it just kind of goes in me and it allows me to go through the film, but I don't consciously think about it, which I feel is the best way. It moves you. And you're right. It does become very epic and it does become very Indiana Jones. It really does. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're totally right.
Feeling, and it's just,
and
feels good.
The last shot of him on the horse is also very Spielberg-esque in a way too. So yeah, I think like anything, people go in with expectations and and this is interesting because this conversation is more about the psyche of the audience, of movie-going audiences nowadays, than it is about the movie Nope. I just feel like they'll catch up. This film has made enough money and enough people have seen it, but people will catch up. 6 months from now, when people are able to sit down and just watch it, they're going to find out that they misunderstood what it was the first time. And sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's like that with music. You hear a song the first time, you're like, ugh. And then all of a sudden you can't get the song out of your head. You're like, well, okay, give it credit for doing that. And then you're like, let me go back to that song. You're like, well, I do like that part. I do like that part. By the end of the week, you're like, it's the best song ever.
Yeah. Well, I did also, I was so happy with the fake out that happens in the horse barn.
I love it.
And I was like, oh my gosh, is he going to actually do the bulbous headed alien thing? Is that what he's gonna do? I mean, I know, and we get the scene where OJ's like got his phone out and he's recording it and all that stuff. But I was kind of like, do not do this to me. Like, I was expecting so much more, and I got it. So it was a fake out, but it was one of those where it's like, okay, all right, you get one.
That's what the audience is expecting to happen in this film, especially when people start talking about aliens. They're expecting that. What I kept thinking when you saw the first head come out of the first alien head come around the corner, I thought, where is he going to go with this? Like, what territory could he possibly venture into that we have not seen a million times on film? How is he going to Jordan Peele this right here? And then, of course, it's a bait and switch. And then you're like, yes, I'm so glad it is.
And speaking of Spielberg, we're also primed with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and with just this whole, like, we're going to communicate and we're going to figure it out. And that's one avenue you can go down. And you could see how he may be interested in going down that avenue. But it's so much, I mean, just the fact that it's an organic being, that's the linchpin. That is the thing that makes this movie, it just builds in this intrigue to it. And it allows you to kind of, pull different things out of that. Yeah, I hate saying that it's unique because, like I said, there could have been, there's probably other things out there that are buried that are not in the height of our pop culture consciousness that maybe parallels to that. But still, for a huge movie in the summer coming out, I think that it's much deeper than people would have expected out of a summer blockbuster movie or whatever,
And as for it being unique, it's not necessarily unique, although it's unexpected. It's the least expected thing I expected. I had no clue it was going to be an organic animal being. And then when you see it ripple at that one point where you kind of see that it's skin or hide or whatever, you're like, wait, what just happened there? Why did it do that? The very first time I saw it, I thought it was an effect of speed. Like, I thought that Jordan Peele was trying to show it slowing down, and like that was the ripple of the wind, or I wasn't sure what it was. And then you very quickly realize, okay. The other thing I want to bring up really quick, if we're talking about uniqueness, Jordan Peele had the opportunity to do a gazillion jump scares, and he really only does one major one. Yes, the alien, when he turns around, is there and he punches it. It's sort of a jump scare, but it's not. But there's only one jump scare, and that's when the horse falls into the truck close to the end of the film. When the alien regurgitates the actual horse statue and it slams through the... It's the only one. And man, it worked because... I didn't know it was coming the second time because I didn't really remember where it was at, but it happened a second time and I jumped just as high as I did the first time. So congratulations that he doesn't rely on that. There's not a cat coming around the barn and jumping out of a window, and she doesn't get really high, and then something in the VR goggles scares her and there's a jump scare. It's not. He simplifies it, and that's what I think is the mastery of this film, is that everything it's huge, but it's simplified, and that's hard to do.
And I also, with this type of a situation and this type of a, storytelling, you have to have the rules established. Any horror movie is going to have rules, and you're going to have those rules be established in, I think, the way that Jordan Peele does it. It doesn't explain why things happen, but it uses their troubleshooting process to help you understand what the rules are for this being. Whenever this being is over top of something, all electronics cease working. And so that's why you've got the crazy flailing arm man fan things, and the cell phone's not working and all of that. Like it, and it's exactly what the Fry's electronics guy says, like, oh yeah, that's not how cell phones work. Oh, your power went out, your cell phone's still gonna work. And that's, I could hear myself saying exactly what he said to them, and being as someone who used to sell stereos and home theaters and that kind of stuff. People coming in and being like, "Oh yeah, I think this is going," and it's like, that's actually not. I hate to actually you, but we'll go over like what is going on and what the process is to fix it, that kind of a thing. But in this one, it's just like there's no explanation as to why any piece of electronics doesn't work. But it's still how it happens, and it's a way for you to identify without looking at the alien, like where the alien is, and from a wide vantage point be able to identify where the alien is, what the alien is affecting. And it also it allows the audience to anticipate what the alien is about to do by seeing things, whether it's even just the electronic bike. It's like, come on, it's like, how many people have fully electric bikes? Like, nobody's got those, but this particular TMZ guy had it, and because of that, Keke Palmer can't get out of there. So it's those little things that pay off at the end. The only thing that, and this is the only nitpick I have for this movie, is that the sunglasses at night part, where the guy in the van's playing Sunglasses at Night when he tries to leave, and then of course it slows down the music, which makes no sense at all. Like, it totally makes sense as the alien is coming close to Keke Palmer in the house and she's listening to a record. If the voltage of the particular turntable gets lower, then the turntable will turn slower, and that will make the music have a lower frequency and sound slower and be slower. But that guy's like listening to Spotify on his phone through the Bluetooth on his van. It makes no sense as to why Sunglasses at Night would be slower.
It doesn't. I hate that you just told me that, though. Because you're absolutely right. I thought, well, maybe he's listening to cassette tape, but it wouldn't do it with a cassette tape.
Oh, you know what? It actually would do it with a cassette tape. But there's no way he would listen to it with a cassette tape. This guy works at Fry's Electronics in 2022.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe the subplot part about where he was into retro technology was cut out, and although they are playing the VR game, and
I know,
it's
right?
pretty modern and stuff.
There was definitely stuff that was cut out, because like there's scenes of like Keke Palmer on Hollywood Boulevard shooting like a TikTok or something. There's stuff that got cut out of this movie. I heard it was like the assembly cut was like 4 hours long or something. But really? Assembly cuts are long anyway, but they definitely shot a bunch of stuff. But that also makes me think that Jordan Peele and his editor really got it down to as tight as they can, even though it's a movie that's that's like 2 hours and 10 minutes long. So, it's not a short movie, but at the same time, I didn't have a problem with the running time.
Not at all. Not at all. And you were talking about the director, and the TMZ guy couldn't help from looking up.
Oh, and asking about his footage. Oh.
Yeah, and that, and then the TMZ guy is like, "Get your phone. You got your phone. Why don't you have your phone? Where's my phone? Where's my phone?" And you're like, "Dude, you're getting ready to die, and you're worried about your cell phone." There's a statement in that. Big statement, and that will be reflected 50 years from now, and people will be like, they even knew it then. You know, that Jordan Peele's film Nope described what happened to our society. It's a prediction. But I was looking at some of the themes that we were talking about earlier, and we're talking about fame and getting the Oprah shot and getting the money from seeing an alien craft come and eat a horse. Well, be careful what you wish for, because fame never turns out the way that people expect it to turn out. And the be careful what you wish for part turns out to be you're going to get eaten by an alien. So be careful about wanting your Oprah shot. And the cinematographer ends up, what's the snake that eats its tail?
Ouroboros?
Yeah. That reminds me of Adaptation when they're talking about that. And the other brother goes, no, I don't think it's called that. But yes, that's what the term is. But that's exactly what I took from that, is that the director, because he says earlier in the film, or cinematographer, he says earlier in the film when they're trying to get him to come over initially, he says something about one for them, one for me. In other words, I will make money by producing this commercial with Donna Mills or whatever that was, and then I will do one for me. And I guess him editing all the films of the predators and the snakes and the tigers and all this stuff is something he's working on for him. But he ends up seemingly wanting to document something, but he just wants the shot. And he also talks about magic hour. And he also talks about magic is getting ready to happen, and nobody knows what he's talking about. Yeah. I mean, we of course do. So be careful what you wish for, because you end up being that snake and you end up eating your own tail, and you end up wanting to film something so desperately to get the shot that you end up becoming exactly what you're filming.
I think he knows exactly what he's doing too. And I think that he probably makes the calculation of like, what are the chances that I'm going to get this shot? I'm going to get eaten or killed or, busted up, and that the film is going to survive. And I'm going to be known as the cinematographer who got the most epic shot of this alien. And that is going to be my legacy.
Well, that's
live on
way
forever.
Deeper and sicker than I ever thought of, because that is so sick that...
Well, I mean...
I get it, because that's what happens at the end of Black Swan. You remember?
We're still looking at the Mona Lisa, even though Leonardo da Vinci is dead.
Yeah, you got a point. You got a point.
It's one of those things where this guy he's making this art and he wants to live. I mean, I'm sure Jordan Peele has the same feeling a lot, probably. I mean, anybody who, spends as much time and energy and sweat and blood on art like this probably wants as many people as possible to see it, whether it's today or tomorrow or 50 years from now.
Jordan Peele's good, though. I mean, he's good. Well, he now is history. He has an Oscar. Yeah. He is part of history. Whether or not 100 years from now people are watching his movies, which they will be if we're around. People like me go and look at those encyclopedias of the Oscars, and I backtrack people's careers, and I try to figure out, this year they were nominated, but this year they didn't win, and I go back and forth. So, he is immortalized at this point, not only as a successful Hollywood director so far, and I think he's going to be fine for the rest of his career. Obviously, that's an easy statement to make, but you never know. He is immortalized when it comes to things that he did in his lifetime that are documented. Not everything that we do in our lives gets documented, and you can go back and look at a historical record of it. Not the everyday guy. My names happen to be in the newspaper, but does that mean that 100 years from now somebody's going to look up? Why would anybody look me up? Like, there's no reason. But if somebody's a film buff and they're trying to follow it, this film happened in this. This was influenced by this, because people will be influenced by Jordan Peele. Yeah. Just the idea of allowing somebody to have a unique vision and an original idea is what Jordan Peele is creating. Like you said in the very beginning of the podcast, it's not a remake. It's not a part two, a reimagining thing. That's what he's given to the world so far, is that you can make a film that's unique and original, and you don't have to rely on Top Gun Maverick. Got it in. I was trying to get that in for the longest time. But you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So he just has the ability. See, when I rewatched Us, it confirmed my belief about Nope. Nope seems to be simpler in nature, because the narrative seems to be simpler and I'm not even exactly sure that's the best word, less complicated than us, the narrative is. But the themes that he's talking about in both films smack you around every time you watch the movie. Same with Get Out. Us is a little convoluted for me. We've talked about this. It's a little messy, and I have too many questions at the end of the film of how did this happen? How did this happen? Why did this happen? Why couldn't she go up the escalator? What's happening there? Why was she wearing that shirt there? How did she organize all these people? It's too many questions after that film for me, although I do enjoy that movie, and I'm trying to look for the answers when I watch it a second and third time, because I've seen it a couple times now. Nope answered everything I was wondering and posed questions I didn't even know to ask myself, and it lingered, and it's thought-provoking, and I ended up trying to, on some level, I try to figure out my existence in art, and I try to figure out where my placement in the world is by what I see and what I hear and what I watch. And when you watch something like Nope and you extract, be careful what you wish for, or whatever theme it is that we were talking about, I feel like I've accomplished something, that I've been a participant in his art. So I can't go there with the people talking about the narrative being slow or the pacing of the film being slow. I can't go there because there's so much here, but he streamlined a lot of it.
I think he did too. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk about the visual effects at the end of the film really quick?
Yeah.
So obviously Jordan Peele's influenced by certain things, and obviously the design of the alien craft when it unfolds. And by the way, is Gordy's shot the first shot, or is the squared mouth thing the first shot of the film?
So I think that I don't know if there's anything on the screen, but you see the Nahum Bible verse.
Right. But you see that iridescent ripple.
That's during the title. But I don't even think it has the title. It just has all the, starring Keke Palmer, Daniel Kaluuya, all these people.
And you're seeing the esophagus or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's crazy great that comes back later on, that simple thing that I thought was like the inside of a refrigerator truck or something. I was like, what is this? And then I thought, because they worked in the film industry, that I just thought it was some kind of like lighting thing that reflected lights or whatever. I didn't know what it was. And then it comes back. And so when the alien unfolds into the big jellyfish thing, you're like, oh, okay, that's smart. Because now we know that it functions just like an octopus will, its tentacles will come all together and it will be just a ball, or, whatever. The opposite's true, a puffer fish or whatever they call those things. When you touch it, it gets really big and that kind of stuff. So it's smart design because that's something we know that happens in our nature. But the thing that I found the most interesting was the mouth squared thing, whatever. And I was like, what is that? It's so wholly original that I just accepted it for what it was. And I was like, okay, I don't exactly understand it. All I know is that it scares me. It feels like if you got close enough to it, you would suck into it like Velcro and you wouldn't be able to let go. It felt like that's how this thing ate and digest. And I thought, the jellyfish thing, cool.
Yeah.
But that squared mouth thing wasn't anything I was expecting. And I think that's where you have to take a moment to credit the production designer, whoever designed that monster, because that's not something I was expecting. And I thought it was brilliant. I did.
I think it's a lot of things. I think it's beautiful. I think it's organic. I think it's threatening. I think it's all of those things. Somehow it's able to be all of those things. How can something be beautiful, but then also just dreadful? How can something be organic, but then also not of this world? I don't know, but it is. It's all of that.
Well, being a Star Trek fan, we often joke ourselves. And one of the joke is, how come all aliens or other beings in Star Trek world just have a weird nose, but they have eyes and ears and, hands and arms and legs. And, yeah, exactly. And so like there's one from the original series, which is like this suction cup monster that takes the salt out of your body. And that's how it goes about killing you. And it's not humanoid looking. I mean, it is to a degree, but it's not. And so whenever there was a monster that was plasma or a cloud or whatever it may be, it was like, bravo, to think out of the box. There's no way that everything in this universe looks exactly like us. We know that by science. It just would not be. So whoever created that alien for this movie, or whoever's idea was that, should get a lot of credit, because it's very original. I've never seen it before.
All right. I guess that's a good place to end it. Well, you can check us out on the web at actorandengineer.com. You can go to facebook.com/actorandengineer. You can tweet us at actorengineer, and you can find us on YouTube. Just search for the Actor and the Engineer podcast, and we'll see you next time.